Time now for Stanley's Stinkers, the only show that uses reverse prognostication to predict the losers in college football's biggest games. With this week's losers, here he is, Stanley Reese.
Well, after a rough and wild weekend of college football, Stanley Stinkers finished 14-6, but we still have a 76% success rate for the year. That's not bad considering we never back down from the tough contest. We use reverse prognostication to predict the losers in college football's biggest games. With that said, here are the teams that show up this week on the Stinkometer. South Alabama Jaguars at the Tennessee Volunteers. The Riflemen from Knoxville are ready to return to General Neyland's battlefield after 2 road thumpings in consecutive weeks. Tennessee gave up a combined 90 points in those 2 games while the offense played musical quarterbacks. This week's opponent, South Alabama, comes in after an off week and a close win over Western Kentucky, a team UT beat convincingly themselves earlier in the year. Look for Coach Butch Davis to fire at will, but don't look for the Baycats to run and hide. It might be close, but Stanley Stinker, South Alabama. UAB Blazers at the Vanderbilt Commodores. The Sea Skippers might feel like they're in the typhoon with the up-and-down cruise they've had so far this year. At 2-2 now, Vandy needs a win against what should be a lesser opponent to assure another winning season. But the fire-breathing Dragons from Birmingham are not the perfect pansy anymore, and a win against Vandy would be a shining moment for the upstart program. If UAB's defense continues to improve and the offense keeps up their success, this one could be interesting. Stanley Stinker, I'm calling it, in an upset, Vanderbilt. Miami Hurricanes at the South Florida Bulls. Fans of the stormy Ibis have been waiting for the good times to return to the U. Their wait may be over. This week's game against the winless team from Tampa should feature even more explosions from the Canes offense that scored 77 points a week ago. If quarterback Stephen Morris returns from an ankle sprain, he and running back Duke Johnson should have little trouble raining down on the Cavs. Stanley Stinker, South Florida. Well, we've got a lot more coming up, including the Fighting Fowl versus the Bright Knights, the Aggies and the Piggies with a surprise ending, and a showdown between the Hedges with the Cats and the Dogs. Those games and a whole lot more coming up after this.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Stanley Stinkers is sponsored each week by AnytimeCostumes.com. This is the one-stop place for everything Halloween, from kids to adults, fierce to feisty. Click on the link on our sponsors page for special discounts. AnytimeCostumes.com. By CBSSports.com Fan Shop. It's the place for all the latest college football, Major League Baseball, NFL, and even NASCAR gear. From tees to hats to jewelry, jackets. It's the perfect place to shop for your school colors. The Florida Gators at the Kentucky Wildcats. The Swamp Lizards packed their alligator luggage for a trip to the Bluegrass State in a game against Kentucky. While this may look like an easy trip on paper, Florida lost their starting quarterback in a sloppy game a week ago, while the Wildcats had a week off. This begins a 4-game stretch for Kentucky that includes games against the Gators, the Tide, the Gamecocks, and Mississippi State. It ain't been easy this year for Kentucky, and Florida is set to make it even harder. Stanley Stinker, Kentucky. South Carolina Gamecocks at the UCF Knights. The fearless Fowl from Columbia earned a week off after 3 close games to start the season, and that off week might be enough to get the team focused and healthy. But if USC is caught looking past UCF, the head ball coach could lose his VISOR. Blake Bortles, the senior signal caller for the Bright Knights, is ranked as the 5th best passer in the country, and his team is undefeated in 3 tries, including a win against Penn State. Things could get interesting at Bright House Stadium, but in the end, the cable gets cut. Stanley Stinker, UCF. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons at the Clemson Tigers. The Orange Cats from Clemson, South Carolina will try to keep their lofty status this weekend as they open a few rows up front for the Demon Deacons. And while it's no way to welcome the visitors, Clemson needs a game like this to sharpen the corner of Howard's Rock. Taj Boyd has only 6 touchdowns in the air this year, but he should be able to double that total in one afternoon as the Tigers dunk and sprinkle the Deacons. Tough stretches ahead for Dabo Swinney, but this is further down the road. Stanley Stinker, Wake Forest. Texas A&M Aggies at the Arkansas Razorbacks. Despite an offseason filled with flamboyant flashes, Aggie quarterback Johnny Manziel is still the same electrifying player he was on the field. With his new favorite target, Mike Evans, the Heisman winner has posted points almost at will through 2.5 games. But this weekend's trip to Arkansas might be enough to slow, if not stop, the insanity. The Piggies have a defense that is second in the nation in sacks and negative quarterback yardage. That's big. If Arkansas can contain Johnny Football, it would be a signature win for new coach Brett Bielema. Look for a closer game than expected with a surprise ending. Stanley Stinker, we call it, in an upset, Texas A&M. Time to take another quick break, but don't wander away. We've got a lot of games coming up. That includes the fight between Brutus and Bucky at the Horseshoe and an SEC showdown between the Hedges. Those games and a few more coming up after this.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't seen your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The Ole Miss Rebels and the Alabama Crimson Tide. After a week of rest, the insurgents come into Tuscaloosa with a potent ground attack that worked 2 weeks ago against Texas. Add some big-time wide receivers to the mix, and Ole Miss has a chance to surf the tide. But Alabama didn't make it at the top by accident. Nick Saban should have the Tide ready to stop the sprint option, or for that matter, almost any offense Colonel Reb throws or runs their way. It might not be pretty, but Stanley Stinker, Ole Miss. Wisconsin Badgers at the Ohio State Buckeyes. Two heavyweights from the Big Ten come together in Columbus to settle the top of the Leaders Division. Last year, when the two teams played, the Buckeyes needed an overtime to win. This year, it might be different. Badger running back Melvin Gordon has flashed his way to the number 1 spot among college rushers, and if he can get some support from his quarterback, the Badger fans will find some luck at the old Horseshoe. But don't expect Ohio State just to roll over. Two high-caliber quarterbacks and a coach named Urban Meyer might be too much to handle. It'll be close again, but not that close. Stanley Stinker, Wisconsin. The LSU Tigers at the Georgia Bulldogs. The Silver Britches from Athens may have been looking ahead to this game last week when they scared the Bulldog faithful with a closer-than-expected win over North Texas. Meanwhile, the Bayou Bengals were busy turning up their game against Auburn behind the play of potential All-American Zach Mettenberger. The senior signal caller started his career at Athens and had like for his legacy to be felt in the very same place. For Georgia to stay undefeated in the SEC, they'll need to stop the Zach attack and then contain running back Jeremy Hill. There's just too many weapons on the side of the Bayou Bengals in this one. Stanley Stinker, Georgia. Well, while we're at it, here are a few more games that show up this week on the Stinkometer. SMU will get saddled by TCU. West Virginia will be roped by Oklahoma State. Virginia will lose to Pitt. Washington State will be chopped down by Stanford. Boston College will be scalped by Florida State. Notre Dame will run out of luck against Oklahoma. Arizona will be mushed by Washington. Arkansas State will be tamed by Missouri. USC will fall to Arizona State. And California will be quacked by Oregon. Stanley Stinkers is a production of GMD Sports and is intended for entertainment only. A free podcast and blog is always available at stanleystinkers.com. Join us online, on the radio, or in your favorite newspaper for all the losers every week. Stanley Stinkers, the only program in America that uses reverse prognostication to predict the losers in college football's biggest game.